Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to a few of you watching the live show today and those who will be watching the recording. Today is April 7, 2022. My name is Gregory Sneed, and welcome to the Community Briefing. Today, we have a great guest. It's Mr. Christopher Jackson Sr., and he is with the City of Inglewood, Economic Development. He's going to be sharing with us all the wonderful things that the city is doing and the economic opportunities that exist here within the City of Inglewood. I am a proud resident of the City of Inglewood, a business owner in Inglewood, and in the words of Willie Agee, this is a beautiful day in Inglewood. My name is Gregory Sneed. The name of my company is Lifesaver Financial Services. I help my clients keep more of the money that they make. I do that through life insurance, long-term care. I'm a financial coach, and I teach financial literacy because I firmly believe that when you feel better about your money, you feel better about your life. I'll have some information in the chat, and if you'd like to feel better about your money, we should have a conversation. And now, it's my pleasure to introduce the queen of our community briefing, Miss Crystal Mitchell.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I have a gravelly voice because it's tax season and folks got me working till 1 o'clock in the morning for the last 3 or 4 days. I'm wore out and I still got another week. But welcome to the community briefing. This briefing is here and powered and sponsored by Recycle Black Dollars and the Black Business Association. This platform is our platform. It's the community briefing. So it's the place where you will meet our leaders and stakeholders that are operating and sitting at the table making decisions about our community and us and our businesses. So this is a perfect time for you to network and get to know them all. And in my utopia, one day, all Black folks, all folks of one hue, Black hue, will all unite and we're going to have one voice and we're going to make a major impact and change for our community. That's my utopia. My name is Crystal Mitchell and I am the owner of Mitchell Business Solutions, as well as I am an educator and trainer. I teach and train small businesses and provide resources and tools and mentorship for them to reach their maximum and to be successful in their businesses. I host another podcast called The Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert that broadcasts live every Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock. And in addition to this one, I also co-host another podcast called The Conversations on the Patio, and it's about all things retirement. So welcome, welcome, welcome. We got a great guest today. It's my first time meeting Mr. Jackson, but I am very pleased to meet him. Before I kick it off, I want you guys to see my legendary women's black t-shirt. Is from a good friend of mine. She has a product line called V's Tees. So if you guys would like to have this legendary t-shirt with all of these amazing, and let me pull it up a little bit so you see Michelle Obama, and there's also a male's companion to it, and it has Barack Obama in the center. So if anybody's interested in purchasing that, reach out to me and I will refer you over. So today I'm rocking that because Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson is just about there and going to be a Supreme Court judge. So let's give her a great big round of applause. And we doing some things, and we may have another seat open that Biden can fill up with somebody that we might want. So with that, thank you guys for showing up. Oh, one other thing before I kick off, I have a young girl that was in my biz camp. She went all the way to the World Nifty competition yesterday. She was in the semifinals. She didn't make it to the top 3 today, but I am so happy and so proud of this 16-year-old young woman who took her business all the way to New York City and competed on the world stage. So I feel I like a proud mama. One of my children doing awesome things. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Greg. Today, Robin Billups, who is also part of this magnificent team of Stephen, myself, and Greg, she just got back from St. Louis, so she's getting a little, she's chillaxing today because she needs to, and she will be back next week. So with that, Stephen, Greg, I turn it. Stephen, are you waiting to the end? Okay, so with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Greg.
All right, all right. Well, on behalf of Crystal, Robin, Stephen, and myself, we welcome you to today's community briefing. If you missed the very beginning, today our guest is Christopher Jackson, Sr., and he is Director of the City of Inglewood Economic and Community Development. And let's see, he oversees the planning, building safety, code enforcement, and economic development divisions with a growing staff of over 30 employees and a host of consultants. He manages an annual operating budget of over $6 million and revenues of 6% of the city's Inglewood General Fund. He's a proud graduate of Cal State Poly University at Pomona with a degree in urban and regional planning. He's currently pursuing his MBA, and he has a long career in public planning. He's worked for such places as San Dimas, the cities, San Dimas, Tustin, Whittier, and the City of Los Angeles, City of Angels. Among his many projects, he's also managed the City of Champions Revitalization Initiative, which adds $2.66 billion with a B dollar state-of-the-art 80,000 seat stadium. I think y'all heard of it. Oh, SoFi, Rams, Chargers, Super Bowl, World Cup, Olympics. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff coming, right? And the 6,000 seat performance venue to the $2 billion Hollywood Park project, which is going to be situated on close to 300 acres of land. He's also managed the $100 million Inglewood Forum renovation, which has won really many rehabilitation awards. He's also leading the efforts to bring an NBA arena to Inglewood. I think that he's bringing it. I think like it's going to happen in the future. It's here. It's coming. Okay. He has served as a past board member of the Planning and the Black Community Division and American Planning Association. He is the past president of the greatest fraternity in the world, the Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. And he is also an ordained minister. Please join me in welcoming our guest, my fraternity brother, to the virtual stage, Mr. Christopher Jackson, Sr.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Crystal, Steve. Steve, back and forth with all the emails, making sure I'm where I'm supposed to be, navigating all that. So it really is a beautiful opportunity for me to be able to be here with you guys, sharing with you some of the amazing stories that has happened here in the city of Inglewood, and really hopefully encouraging you in your business pursuits and your community engagement to be involved, to be engaged, to be aware of the things that are happening. And so in my discussion with Greg, we talked earlier this morning, Steve and I communicated via email. I was really trying to give you some snippets, some ideas, some things that are going to help you thrive in this environment that we find ourselves in. There's that great introduction. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. So we find ourselves in peculiar territory. We find ourselves both hopeful and cautiously pessimistic, cautiously optimistic, but yet I look at things from a viewpoint of the glass half full. We are on our way to where we're trying to accomplish in our community. You know, it's unfortunate that there's going to be some casualties that come along the way, but we've always known that from our days. You know, those of you who know the story of Harriet Tubman in the Underground Railroad, that there's always casualties when you're trying to make progress. So I want you to understand that. So a little bit about me, and thank you, Greg, for doing that. Greg and I, great members, obviously, we're members of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Corporate. I'll share that with you. But I really want to get to, you know, kind of you get understanding who I am, because I think it's important to establish a relationship with folks. And you don't really have a relationship with people if it's always just about the factual things of what they do, but really it's about who they are. And let me just start by saying that I am a son of my mom and my dad and my mom, Joby and Elma Jackson, who come out of Arkansas in the southern portion of the state, Louisville, Arkansas, and migrated. My dad was in the Air Force, so my mom and dad traveled all over the world because of his involvement in the military. My dad, when he got out of the military, he was a casualty in the 60s of not being able to find employment. As a result of that, my parents moved into the Nickerson Gardens housing project. And that's kind of where I come on the scene in 1965. When I was born, I'm a proud 56-year-old kid on my way to 57, on my way to 80. And so my story comes out of Nickerson Gardens, and my experience comes out of that. I spent my formative years in elementary at 112th Street School. Those of you know the neighborhood. I was on my way to Markham, on my way to Lott. But my mom saw fit to have me in that first busing program that went out to the Valley. So I was that first entity that got there. I always tell the story, and it's sometimes a very rough story for people to hear. But when our buses pulled up for the first time at what was called Sequoia Junior High School at the time, the front of the building said, "Niggers go home." So that was my introduction to being bused into predominantly white community, Sherman Oaks, California. But then I also saw something amazing. By the time first period was over, many of us kind of on that bus, we were really hesitant. We went back out, and they had already painted the building, painted all over all that language that was on there. So it does tell you what schools can do if they decide to do it. So it's interesting how you can get stuff done. Now there would be bureaucratic red tape. Who's going to paint, when, how much it's going to cost, all this stuff. But when you get action oriented, you can get some things fixed. And then because of that, I had a great relationship with the school. Went on to Reseda High School, graduated from Reseda, went to Cal Poly Pomona, started in architecture, and ended up in urban and regional planning. And then my career, as Greg shared with you before. I'm a husband to my wife, Tracy, 20 years that we've been married. We just celebrated our 20-year anniversary. I'm a father of 7 wonderful children: Jasmine, Chris Jr., Taylor, Chancellor, Christian, Kenneth, and Kennedy. I see them every day when I come in my office. Their pictures are up. That's them back there. So I see them every time I come in to have to deal with y'all, just saying, and realize, what it is I'm trying to accomplish. I'm a grandfather, 3 grandchildren, Rima, Eden, and Amara. And I got one in the hopper, Chris Jackson III, for my son, Chris Jr. and his wife. So we have an African gray parrot. So I got a bird that talks to me when I come home. He doesn't really like me. He loves my wife and he loves the children, but he's not particularly fond of me, even though he doesn't realize it, but the only reason he's not outside in some tree is because I put a roof over his head. So, and we have a bearded dragon as pets. So I'm an ordained Baptist minister, so I'm going to sound a little preachy every now and then. That's where I get my funk from. Hopefully y'all don't mind the funk, because I like sharing in a kind of artistic way. I'm an avid bicycle enthusiast. I ride my bike. Some of y'all might even see me rolling down La Brea, rolling up Jefferson, rolling into PV, going into Malibu, going up to Griffith Park. I ride with my cycling group, Major Taylor. Those of you who are not familiar with the Major Taylor story, hopefully you get to know that. He was a bicyclist that was world renowned in the late 1800s. He broke all kind of records back then and had to deal with all the segregation issues of that time. So as my role in the city, I'm the director. I'm one of 6 directors in the city of Inglewood, and I oversee 4 divisions, as Greg shared with you. I have my economic development. I'll start with that one because it really lends itself to what we're talking about here today. And we have our planning, building safety, and code enforcement. So our mission statement in my department is to facilitate the safe and sound physical development that promotes long-term economic growth, job creation, and enhances the quality of life for residents, business owners, patrons, and visitors alike. So we're trying to be holistic in our approach to providing the services. On the economic development front, we focus on business attraction, we focus on business retention, and then business expansion. And we do that through a several pronged approach that we have identified. Planning is really land use. So as you know, the planning story, that's my background is planning. So I had to kind of move back from being a super planner, the Forum super planner, the renovation of the Centinela Hospitals, all my projects, SoFi Stadium, my project, all the way through construction, including the retail area in terms of the entitlement process. And then in my last baby in Inglewood, I ain't having no more babies, y'all, I'm done. Last baby is going to be the Intuit Dome, which you guys know is under construction right now. And that's working alongside with Steve Ballmer and the LA Clippers. So and by the way, I got to say this. I'm a hardcore, serious Laker fan, y'all. So y'all know I'm conflicted, eyes conflicted, big time. Because, you know, I tell the story, I went to a game and the mayor, you come, okay, yeah, who's playing? Lakers playing, and the Clippers are playing. So, you know, I have my Kobe jersey on. I put my Kobe jersey because I'm a hardcore Laker fan. Now, I didn't know when I got there that Steve Ballmer was going to be there and I was going to be sitting on the Clippers side. I had no idea. So, but you know what? I proudly wore those purple and gold. The only time you'll see me love purple and gold is when I'm in my Laker purple and gold. Other than that, it's black and old gold. So we have our building safety, which is all the building safety related issues, which is ensuring safe building design, construction, approval, completed building projects, all that kind of good stuff. And then code enforcement, which enforces the codes. I have 4 division managers. One, I have actually a vacancy right now. If there's anybody out there who is interested in economic development and has a background in that, we're currently looking for an economic development manager. So you can go to our city website, www.cityofinglewood.org, go to the HR section, and you can see the recruitment there, and the recruitment bulletin is there. Pays really well, and you get to be in the mix with a lot of things that are going on in the city. Greg talked about my budget. Some of that information that he pulled from my LinkedIn is old because I don't spend a whole lot of time on LinkedIn, but we're actually over $7 million on our budget and about $10 to $15 million of revenues coming in. Some of you know about all the billboards that are all over the city and the automated billboards you see, the LEDs. Those are all city projects. Those are revenue generating projects. We get anywhere from $3-4 million a year in the city on that. I told you I was a proud member of Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated. I was duly initiated into my fraternity on May 11, 1985 at 12:06 a.m. out of the Ida Psi chapter, Cal Poly Pomona. As you guys know, Alpha is the first intercollegiate Black fraternity founded in 1906 at Cornell University. And some of our prominent members include Martin Luther King, W.E.B. Du Bois, Thurgood Marshall. Some of y'all don't know billionaire Robert Smith is also our fraternity brother. John H. Johnson, many of you with the publications with John H. Johnson. And Roland Martin, if y'all love some Roland, he doesn't shy away from that. So y'all know he's a man alpha. And then even our great coach from the Southern University, Eddie Robinson, member Alpha Phi Fraternity Incorporated. And then there's me. Oh, I didn't hear nothing from y'all. Come on, y'all got to show me some love. But and then you know,
1906.
There we go. Listen, you know, my mom used to say, she passed away several years ago, but she would say, "It's a poor dog won't wag his own tail." And a lot of us, you know, we bark a lot, but we don't wag our own tail. We have to talk about our accomplishments, the things we are doing. We have to be able to share and communicate with each other. These are critical elements of being successful, period. We need to do more of that. I use the example of the NBA. When NBA was going through some very difficult times, they created the NBA Cares program. That was because they were dealing with a lot of issues with their athletes. NFL has done the same thing, NFL Players Association. They rewrite the script, and I think many of us need to do exactly the same thing. One of the things that I will spend a little bit of time talking about over the next few minutes that I have with you, and I won't take a lot of your time. I'll leave a lot of that open for question and answer, because I think that's one of the most important part of the dialogue that we're going to have, is talking about the story of Inglewood. When I got here in 2008 is when I arrived here at the city of Inglewood. Folks told me I was nuts. They told me I was crazy. They told me that I was tanking my career. I had just left the city of Santa Clarita. Those of you know about Santa Clarita, that's where I was living in Santa Clarita at the time, worked for the city of Santa Clarita. Previous to that, I worked for the city of LA. Previous to that, I had my own business that I ran for 15 years in financial services with a local office here in Inglewood. And they told me I was nuts because, you know, they were saying, hey, man, look, you're in Santa Clarita, you got all this great thing. Why are you going to go to Inglewood? Well, let me tell you, having the opportunity to be able to come to a community of color was something I never thought I would really be able to do. And I think it was something that I, in this community, understood the heartbeat of this community, how this community was thinking, because I come out of this community. I spent a lot of time at Centinela Park. Most of y'all remember the old Centinela Park name before it was at Vincent Park. I rode down those hills. My wife and I shot basketball on those courts, and we dated each other there. I spent a lot of time in some of the theaters that were here locally on Market Street, and went to the J.C. Penney's that was across the street. Went to the Sears that was over where the Vons was. My mom was a Sears queen. So we would go all the way over there to pick up her packages, you know, pre-Amazon, when you would order and you had to go to the place to actually pick it up. They didn't deliver it to you. Some of you know that. But when I got here, I knew that this city was uniquely situated to be in a place of prominence. And I knew what was coming down the pike. It was just a matter of time. And a lot of times what happens in the business community is we look at all the problems and we don't necessarily see the opportunities that are there. I was just hearing, I think Crystal was bringing up on the, just before everything opened up, that Crenshaw High School is closing down. There's going to be some changes that go on there. And somebody's got to have vision for what that next level of that area is going to be, what it's going to transform to. And then we have to have, as African Americans have to have some say in what's going to be happening in our communities and what needs to happen in our communities. And I knew in order for us to navigate through where we're going to be as a city of Inglewood, we were going to have to be able to speak to the people of the city of Inglewood, because we've been hurt. We've been a disadvantaged, disenfranchised community for a long time. And I know how that feels. I'm one of those stories that come out of, you know, the hood. I understand how the vernacular of areas are created by what people think or what they see in the media, and not necessarily of what they touch and feel. Inglewood, when I was growing up in Nixon Gardens, Inglewood was kind of an oasis. The teachers that taught me lived in the avenues. That was where they purchased a lot of their homes early on. Inglewood was a segregated community, but it was one of the first ones to open up when there was opportunity for African Americans to be able to purchase homes here, and those restricted covenants were taken away. So opportunity is a big part of where we are. We have our Mayor James T. Butts. We have our council folks, Councilman George Dodson, Councilman Padilla, Councilman Dion Falk, who's our newest member, Councilwoman Dion Falk, who's also a member of Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. And then we have our Councilman Eloy Morales. So these are council folks that, you know, serve you, and mayor that serve you. And I will say this, we not always agree with things. We not always agree with how people go about doing things, but proof is in the pudding. You cannot deny the phenomenal, incredible change of the city of Inglewood. I bought my house in 2016 for $490,000. My house now is $1.3 million. And that's happened across the landscape. And the beautiful thing about that, and I know we talk about affordability and those kind of issues, but imagine the folks that've been here for decades and never saw their increase in their property values. And now all of a sudden, they can use their equity to buy additional property. They can use their equity to be able to take care of kids, college education, pay off debt, do those type of things that Greg talks about and teaches people to be able to do. That is where you create wealth. Let me be honest with you. Everybody knows real wealth is built in two piles. One is a real estate pile. That's the upside. Then there's the saving aspect of it as well. And then there's the transfer, obviously, when you pass away through life insurance and other instruments like that. So it's important that we get involved in the opportunity. I'm about to put up in the chat right now. Let me hit my enter button. This is our business certification program for the city of Inglewood. We have the mayor and the council have put into a lot of our agreements, all of our agreements, local hire, MBE, WBE, all of the goals to make sure that local hire occurs, that men and women of color have opportunities to these amazing growth patterns that are happening. And it's important for you to be able to take advantage of that. And that flows through my department. You can actually go there, fill your stuff out, talk to me. We can talk about making sure you become an Inglewood certified business. And then when those decisions are being made about who to identify, that's where you come into play. That's where you have an opportunity to be able to actually participate and to vie for things. Look, let me be honest with you. Nothing's easy. Nothing's ever going to be easy for us. It wasn't easy for me. It won't be easy for you. We have to fight for these things. So the good thing is to have somebody who will fight for you. My mom, my dad fought for me, right? When folks should have turned me away. I'll never forget, and I'll close with this. I was looking to go to college, of course, coming out of Cedar High School, predominantly white, student population, predominantly. Like we were very small percentage, and of course, as is typical, a lot of athletes and that kind of stuff. But I was into architecture, so that was my thing. I did football and some other stuff before, but architecture was the thing I was in. So I went to my counselor, and the counselor, we were talking about colleges. And, she said, well, Chris, you come from the projects and, maybe you should go through this cycle. And I said, no, I'm going to a four-year institution, and I'm going to graduate, and I'm going to be somebody, right? And I had heard that over and over from my mom and from my community, from my church, Beulah Baptist Church in South Central LA, right by what was Will Rogers Park, is Ted Watkins Park now, and telling me that I was going to be somebody, and that meant I was going to have to fight. So I had to fight through that to make a decision to get into Cal Poly Pomona, and it absolutely changed the trajectory of my life, along with people like you who have poured into individuals, mentoring young folks like me, helping me to be able to be everything I am, and us supporting each other. So with that, I'm going to turn this back over for some Q and some A. Hopefully I've said something that's been inspirational to you. Hopefully I'll answer some questions that you have as we kind of move along. And back over to you, Greg.
All right. Thank you. Give them a round of applause for Christopher Jackson and sharing all the exciting things in the city of Inglewood.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, there you go. Amen. No, we're not going to take an offering, though.
Oh man, come on, brother.
Not right now. We'll have one at the end of the show. Steve,
I brought my plate. No,
well, we do have a way of helping assisting the community briefing, and so Stephen will mention that at the end of our show. So we won't be passing a physical plate, but a virtual one. First question we have is: has your department had any contact with the California Infrastructure and Economic Development Bank, I think it's called iBank, or California Pollution Control Financing Authority about its plans to deploy $1.2 billion in state small business credit initiative for the benefit of small businesses in Inglewood?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we have begun the dialogues with how the infrastructure money is going to come into play. Principally, infrastructure and those areas fall under our public works department because they deal with the highways and the streets and whatnot. But it actually dovetails itself with my economic development division in terms of how we facilitate those distribution of funds to businesses that are in the Inglewood community. And quite frankly, that's my focus, is to make sure that the business owners, the citizenry of Inglewood have access to those capitals. So yes, we have begun that dialogue. Yes, there's a lot of seminars that are out right now. There's a lot of learning curve on how those monies are going to be allocated and how you'll be able to advance those and the accountability for those funds as well. So yes, we have begun that discussion, and you'll hear more information about that, particularly as I get my economic development manager on board.
You mentioned information about the business certification. Can you elaborate a little bit more? What does that provide the business? And then after that, some of the economic and business opportunities that exist here in the city of Inglewood based on all the development and revitalization that's taking place.
Yeah, there is. The business certification program was something that my previous economic development manager and I talked about how we were going to be able to facilitate this kind of conduit of certification. LA, other cities that you know, LA, Santa Monica, Long Beach, have similar certification programs where they're basically certifying that these businesses are local businesses, that they qualify either as a minority business, that they have been in business for a period of time. They are local businesses. So it's that type of certification. We allow for you to use other certifications kind of as a basis to assist in satisfying things like your minority business aspect or disadvantaged business aspects. We allow that, but we are principally trying to identify businesses that are local in Inglewood. And I've spent probably the last 6-7 years trying to get as many, and I'll call them satellites, because I know some of you have your core business in other locations, but at least having a satellite presence here in Inglewood because it links directly with the opportunities that occur in the city. We just came out for Super Bowl. You guys remember that? Hopefully you enjoyed the Super Bowl. I enjoyed that halftime show. It was absolutely amazing. Some of the characters that were in there, Eve After Dark, I remember partying over there back in the day. Dudo's basketball, where I met Dre and the Wrecking Crew at the time. So it just brought back memories for me when I used to be a DJ back in my college days. But one of the things they had was they had the Business Connect program. So that program was matching up businesses that were local businesses so that they could participate in the activities. Now, the spectrum of that, Greg, were all over. You had anything from culinary opportunities. So we had, some of you who have been at Doolin's, Greg Doolin's my fraternity brother. Doolin's was there, Fiesta Martin. We had businesses in the city that were able to participate in that. Food service and whatnot. Sweet Red Peach, which is a phenomenal location we have in the city of Inglewood, and really taking advantage of these opportunities. And there was also additional funding that went to them because of their involvement. But then those were culinary. There were also construction related. There are also local job related activities that all flow through our agreements. We have agreements with all of the major developments that are going on in the city, from the Forum to SoFi to the Intuit Dome, that mandate that they have to have this kind of participation. So I worked alongside with them. The certification program puts you in that list. And we have a number of our businesses that are certified in the city. And I put that link up there. You can go there. There's the application. You can fill that out. And then it puts you in a position to be able to say, I am an Inglewood certified business. And it actually gives you preferential treatment. You're able to move up in the list. You still got to compete. Let me say it again. You still got to compete. Greg and I talked at Doolin's, and Greg was, I was saying, Greg, you got to do, I said, but your food's got to be good, Greg. You can't have bad food and think you're going to be off. You might get one shot at this thing. So it better be your best. You better put your foot into it, as Adolf did back when they had Aunt Kizzy's Kitchen. Y'all remember back in those days. So I mean, that is something that you have to do. I'm also about to, I'm going to add in, Greg, I'm about to put into the chat our access to our bid access on our website. Come on, guys. All this stuff's available on the website. Or email asking for access to this stuff. Every project has its own kind of connection, but there are also a lot of bids or opportunities within the city itself where you can bid to do work for the city. We're doing a lot of things. If you're in construction, of course, that's a great opportunity. If you are in food service, that's a great opportunity. If you are a supplier, if you're providing supplies, we bought a whole bunch of hand sanitizer and a whole bunch of, paper towels and Clorox and Purell, all that stuff. We had to buy that from folks. If you're in that supply chain business, that gives you an opportunity to be able to compete for that. And yes, we did pay a little bit more for it to be local. Some of you, it's very difficult to compete with Amazon, but because you're a local business, we will spend a little bit more. Now, don't get me wrong. If it's $10.99 at Amazon and you're charging $35, you're going to have a problem. But if it's $10.99 and you're charging $15, we can make sure you're in that discussion, in that talk. So it's important for you, and you got to know your competition, right? You always have to know your competition. Amazon's a big competition for a lot of folks.
They go buy it from Amazon for $10.99 and sell it.
You know, and I talk about that. You know, let me just segue just a little sideline discussion. Back in the early days, I was talking to folks about where they were spending their dollars. So you're talking about Inglewood streets being tore up. You're talking about the trees, the trash ain't taken out. But you're going over to Torrance and giving them all your money. That's why Torrance streets are clean. That's why their trees are trimmed, because you're giving them all your sales tax money. You need to give your sales tax to Inglewood. And I know you got to do a little funky this, a little funky that. I understand. But that's how you change things. You have to make a conscious effort to be able to do that. So I'm going to drop that in the chat, Greg. Is there any other questions?
With all the growth in the city of Inglewood, how are Black and brown residents going to fare in this growth? You know, there's a lot of talk about gentrification, affordable housing. You know, is that going to be available for the renting community? You know, a lot of people feel that, you know, those who've been here 10, 20, 30, 40 years being pushed out.
Yeah, that's a really challenging issue. And I will say this, I think the mayor and the council have done a great job in actually putting programs together to stabilize rents, to make sure that rents are not, you know, there are a lot of folks that were coming in that were literally kicking people out so that they could get these superior rents. That I think we've calmed that down big time because of our rent stabilization program, and COVID helped as well because you had state and local statutes that were designed to protect those who were vulnerable. Who were in the renting population, who weren't on long-term leases, who were doing month to month. With that being said, I always like to balance it out because part of what I think I'm trying to get is more ownership. We talk a lot about the rental community, and don't get me wrong, you can stabilize that, but until you're in a position, there's no equity in rent. And I remind people about that. You know, I was a renter. I know what it is to rent. And that you have to do that. And there's a lot of reasons why that may be the only options that you have. But there's a substantial number of folks who can actually buy. And sometimes you have to, when I first got here, I was telling people to get condos. And they were, you know, I want a backyard. I want a picket fence. I would say, look, you got condos on Queen, condos on Regent, condos you can, all along these areas. Now, those same condos that were $90,000 and $100,000 are now $500,000 for those condos. So what I'm trying to do is, yes, you got to stabilize the community on the rental side, but you also have to get people to really understand that, as you know, and I'll use an example. I was just talking to Byron Scott. He has a merchandising business he's trying to get in Inglewood, and we were talking about where his location was going to go. And I was just saying, hey man, you got to buy something, dude. You got to buy it. You know, yeah, renting, long-term rent, but you need to buy something. You need to invest. You need to have some stabilization. You need to have know that you're going to be there. And if you don't have that option, then that's just what it is. But your mind, your focus should be on buying. Gentrification is a real issue. That's why we set these standards up. But as you know, they said the same thing was going to happen when the Renaissance was developed, when Carlton Square came in. Well, any of y'all been to Renaissance Carlton Square? Okay, yeah. We have a way. We do well as Black folk. We have some disposable income. We spend a lot of money. We have resources, you know, and we can buy in our own community, and we can live in our community. We can stay in our community. I just to close out the answer to that question, Greg. When I start doing my dog and pony to the Carlton Squares, the Briarwoods, the Renaissance, I was talking to ownership organizations. I was talking to the block clubs. You know what I told the folks? Don't sell. Hang on to your property. You know, you got kids now who may want to come back. They may want, I know you sent them to Howard and sent them to Fisk and but they may want to come back now. It's a lot going on in Inglewood, and they are.
Right? It's the new Inglewood.
And they are. But if you sell and you don't think about it from a generational wealth play, you know, like folks who are in Beverly Hills or in the West Side, they don't really get rid of a lot of their stuff. They hang on to it, and they've been able to benefit from that. So trying to get people to stay. That's how you stay. I was in Harlem. I was sitting at a step of a brownstone, that a Black family once owned that, and they were literally driven out, so it's hard to compare. That brownstone was $4 million. Imagine if that family was able to stay there, and their kids, and their kids' kids, and their kids' kids. How does that change the landscape? We have a unique opportunity to do that here in Inglewood. We really do.
This may be outside a little bit of the economic development, but the question was asked about the transit connector, and in prep for the 2028 Olympics. There was a question. Part of the question is understanding that the Vons on Manchester, several of the small businesses, including Sweet Red Peach, might be at risk, for demolition or displacement from that project.
Yeah, the Vons. I'm not on working specifically with that, but my fingers are in everything, right? Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But I just did a presentation at Councilwoman Falk's town hall, and I talked about the ITC. So I'm apprised. My staff is working on the environmental side of that to get the environmental portion approved so that we can move forward and get additional funding. That project, just for those of you who don't know, is going to be what we call a last mile connector. It's going to close the gap between our downtown metro stop, which is near Market and Florence, and going to transfer. It's going to allow for stations to be built at the location where you have the DDs right now and the Fiesta Martine. All of that's going to become a location, a transit plaza. It's going to move down Market Street, going south. It'll turn left on to Manchester going east, and then it'll turn again right onto Florence going south again, and then terminate near Hardy. And that one big lot on the corner across from the Forum, some of you know that location, that was going to be a kind of a fast food environment, a name of which is, for whatever reason, I'll tell you in a second, but that's going to be one of the transfer plazas there. Now, along there's alignment for the rail. One of the yard locations, I identify yard locations where the Vons is right now. So they're working with Vons. Vons will be relocated onto the site. We're looking to also do something with the Planet Fitness that's there as well. So there are going to be movement of that site, but we're looking to retain the majority of the businesses on site. Some of the locations like Sweet Red Peach on Prairie and that kind of stuff, those are not going to be displaced as a result of this. This is just right of way needed for the whole the guideway that's going to be going up. So the hat place on the corner of Manchester and Market will be a casualty of that, but we're looking to try and relocate that hat. Some of y'all got them fancy hats and boots and shoes and all that stuff. Some of y'all, I know y'all fly and stuff. That is one of the locations because of the turning radius of the guideway. So we're working with them. We're minimizing any displacement that's going to occur, and we're going to be relocating the majority of those businesses along that alignment at some place.
Christopher, what about the redevelopment of actual Market Street? I know there's a lot of vacancies there. It's kind of hodgepodge all throughout that little area, all the way up to where CVS is and First City Bank, City First Bank. What's the plans for that?
It's exciting because we knew a really catalytic development there is our Inglewood Gateway project. That's that multi-story building you see going up. It has 243 residential units, some of which are going to be affordable. And then we have 50,000 square feet of commercial. We have a neighborhood Target coming in. I don't know if you guys have been up to USC and seen that Target that's at USC. It's going to be very similar to that with a major grocery component inside. Yeah, we were trying to get your Trader Joe's and your Sprouts, but quite frankly, they were competing with what's going on in Hollywood Park. So we wanted to make sure we locked in somewhere who's going to have a clean, wholesome environment with a nice, nice palette of services there. We'll get another Starbucks in there. I've been trying to get something other than Starbucks. They're everywhere, whatever. But we do have, obviously, we have Hilltop Cafe. We have Fessa Cantina that's going in. We have a new bar that's going to be located in there. We have The Wood, which is doing phenomenal work on Market. So yes, it is a little bit of a hodgepodge, but it's filling in. Those vacant lots that are over there that are used for staging right now for the construction, those are going to be coming up. We're working right now. Believe it or not, it's really exciting. The mayor talked about this at the council meeting. We're working with Debbie Allen and Norm Nixon, along with the Thomas Safford and Associated Black Equities, which is one of the companies that is in relationship with Thomas Safford and Associates, to redo the Fox Theater, make it a performance art location. You know, Debbie's just opening up her new facility right now over on Washington. My daughter dances at the Debbie Allen, so they're doing that. They're doing their grand opening for that this weekend, moving out of the Crenshaw Mall area. And so looking to do that along, bringing back Georgia's restaurant again is one of the things we're trying to get along. So you're going to begin to see, we also have the Miracle Theater, which if you haven't been to the Miracle Theater, you're missing. It's a small, intimate venue, great music, great ambiance there. And then some of the other activities that are going there with some of the smaller business that we're going to be doing some facade improvements. So Crystal, it's coming together. It's going to take some time. It really is. Those of you know the story of Culver City, that downtown area took about 2 decades to get. Those of you know downtown Pasadena, you know that what time it took. We see the result of that now, but it did take some time for it to kind of gel. But we are going to be the hot. If you have an opportunity to buy something over there, buy it. Telling you.
We need a sushi restaurant. We need a sushi restaurant in the entire city of Inglewood. We need a sushi restaurant.
Well, actually, Inglewood is my stomping ground because that's where my bank is. So pretty much I don't live in Inglewood, but I do shop a lot in Inglewood. Recycled Like Dollars used to be right there on right by the police department at the City Hall building. So I spent a lot of time there supporting that. You did mention about us staying in our community and being able to buy homes. The only housing purchase project that I know of is the one right there by St. Mary's. Are there others on its way?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, those of you know where Plymouth and La Brea is, there's a large vacant lot right behind the shopping location there, and they're going to be doing, I think it's 15 townhomes over there. Okay. So there are projects that are starting to come into some of these vacant lots. Let me just tell you, the rental market is hot right now, right? So funding is flowing for rental development, and we've seen this happen before in the past where the market is high, the opportunity to be able to purchase is low, and then you see condominium, you see rental facilities that were at one time for rent become condos. So I think we're going to trend that way in the future as well. But what I'm talking about is there's these opportunities that don't look so. When we bought, when my wife and I bought the house that we have, it did not look like my wife. My wife, first thing she said was, "This ain't where I want to live." Now people come over and go, "Wow," So I want you to have some vision when you go in and you see these opportunities. Some of these homes, you're not going to necessarily have the granite tops and the quartz tops and all the appliances, but have some vision about what that property may look like or what it may look down the road. I've been recently in some condos that, man, you thought you're in Beverly Hills or up in, the high part of New York because of what they've been able to do on the inside. So I do want you to have some vision about that. We are looking to phase in more and more opportunities for ownership, including affordable ownership, which is a very difficult thing to do because of the cost right now. But we are, as we grow as a city and have more quote unquote disposable income, what we call our reserve, we'll be able to allocate more money to facilitate those types of purchases. So
that would be fantastic. So that new apartment building, the 1 bedroom for $2,500, I don't know nobody that will spend $2,500 for a 1 bedroom apartment on Centinela. I'm so sorry. That's extreme.
It's crazy, and it's sold $52 million.
Right, exactly. Right, exactly.
I'm just telling you that what I agree with you 100%. And that's where it gets interesting. One of the reasons why, I talk big on education I'm big on opportunity. We have to find jobs that are paying well, which is, I'm excited about our relationship with NFL Network and getting jobs where you're making 100,000 plus. Because that does, I'm talking about Black folks making $100,000 plus, which does change the dialogue about those types of things. Because what's driving that cost issue is income, right?
Yes.
If you get the increase in the income, so the folks over in Playa Vista that are working over at Google and Yahoo, they don't see 2,500 as a whole lot.
But they make 250.
That exactly. And so what we have to do is have that dialogue as well. Not only the dialogue of affordability, but the dialogue of, okay, how do we get access to those jobs, access to those opportunities at a higher clip, at a higher level? And that's what I'm talking about with NFL media, getting folks into those spaces where those jobs do pay well, while we stabilize the housing market to make sure we don't have displacement.
Yeah, because that's very, very important. I think the average for, and that was probably in 2019, is you had to be making about $125,000 a year to afford to live in Los Angeles. So that means our young people that are coming from Howard and Spelman and Fisk and all those places, they're coming in at $60,000, $75,000. They don't even look at, they're going to be living outside of their parents' house until they're 40 years old. So we do have to make this a balance, because our young people can't afford this. They can't work 5 jobs just to live in an apartment. And ownership is out.
Yeah, and let me tell you why I chose planning. I was originally architecture, but when I looked at architecture, number one, I looked at competition architecture. A lot of Black folks love architecture. One of our fraternity founders was the first architect registered in New York. So, I mean, architect. But then when I looked at planning, it was an opportunity. There wasn't a lot of people in that. And then I looked at the income. So I think we need to be a little bit more strategic, right? So we need to, when I'm talking to young folks, we're mentoring young folks about the career paths that they're taking. You need to look at what it pays, what you're going to be looking at the entry level. What are you going to, because that all is the alignment that goes along with it. And some of us, we just jump into things because we just want to have a degree. But I'm looking at it going, well, do you know what the entry level? Because some of those degree entry levels is, you might as well be working a Jack in the Box. I mean, let me just be honest with you, the opportunity is not really there. So we, as particularly the more mature folks, we gotta get these young folks to understand the ramifications. So if you are gonna go to Fisk or Howard and you're gonna come back to California, you better figure out how to get to UCLA or USC. I mean, you know what I mean, for your graduate work, because you're gonna need that, you're gonna need to be able to bridge that so that you're more competitive in the marketplace. But I agree, it's a balancing act.
Yes, a balancing act. Christopher, you have been absolutely awesome. Thank you so much. I do a summer biz camp for young people every summer in July. It's a virtual camp. I would love for you to speak with the kids.
Absolutely.
They're from the ages of 13 up to 18. Starting there, we're teaching them how to start their own businesses. Anyone here have children in that age group, reach out to me. We're taking applications right now. This is a project that I do with the Los Angeles Urban League. So I'll be talking to you about that, Christopher. We'd love to have you speak with the kids. Thank you so much for enlightening us what's going on in Inglewood. We appreciate you. We're going to have Dr. Mays give us an update on COVID because it's silently doing some damage, I hear. I heard American Airlines just had to cancel a whole bunch of flights because everybody got COVID on the plane. So COVID hasn't gone anywhere. I know y'all think it's gone, but it has not gone. So we're going to turn it over. Christopher, please don't leave. Enjoy Dr. Mays. She keeps us safe.
Oh, I'm not going anywhere. She was my cheerleader. I was watching you, Dr. Mays. I said, okay, my eyes, you know, they say find in the crowd somebody that's with you. I was looking at her and said, she with me.
Yeah, I'm with you because as you get wealthy, I'm gonna make sure you're healthy.
Healthy and wealthy.
You know, that's my goal, you know. So anyway, I put this up for a reason. And it's a time at which we've had many studies this past week, but I'm only going to give you a few in the interest of time. But the most important one is CDC announced recently that COVID has gone up. The number of cases have gone up in 28 states, and also in 3 states, hospitalizations have gone up. So while you out there wanting to just strip for the mask and hug and kiss and all of that, I'm going to tell you, think about it, because LA is one of the places that the cases are going up. And for Blacks in particular, we are stalled. We didn't get this drop in cases the way other people have. We're stalled out because we're also the group that has the least rate of vaccination. About 55% of Blacks in LA County are vaccinated. We're hoping to get those rates up higher. So see, some people are talking about their fourth shot, which is the booster. We've got people, I will tell you, I recently was in a setting, a woman walked in who was in a scooter, so that told you she had disabilities. She was talking to the pharmacist about her first shot. I just almost wanted to just fall out. So you have to realize that we still have work to do. So the quick study that I'm going to tell you about, which is one that you need to know, is there's a new variant. It's in the UK. And of course, all these things spread. If they can get back on the plane, Crystal, it'll spread. So, I'm sure American Airlines is doing everything to get people back on those planes. But anyway, there's a new variant that is called XE, which is the combination of BA1 plus BA2, which is even more transmissible. So it's just a matter of time. So when I tell you those 28 states the cases are rising, they're starting in the Northeast because that's where BA2 is. So I'm just going to leave you with this today because I want you to think about what you're going to do about whether to remove your mask or whether to think about continuing to be masked up in, certain situations. So you need to think about assessing your risks. Like I'm going to tell you, my risk is as of Monday, all the students at UCLA can take their mask off. I'm very clear. I'm not taking my mask off, but so I'm determining where are risky potential situations. I will wear my mask. Me personally, I wear my mask most of the time in most situations because I'm trying to protect me. I'm making sure that I'm just as careful could be. Next time, what I'll tell you about is the blood clot study. I won't do that today because I want to have a little time to make people understand that even when you get mild COVID, there may be these consequences. We're starting now to be able to have enough data to look back. So for today, know that the cases are rising. Be very wise about your mask and continue, if it's so transmissible, not to go back to the cloth mask. I'm seeing y'all out there now trying to do cute again. But, you got to think about those masks, which are, the KN95 and stuff. Instead of like I see a Lakers mask and a this mask and a that mask. If it's more transmissible, you want to be protected. So that's it for me today. Folks, I want you to be, Crystal and her crew gonna make sure you're wealthy, but I want to make sure you can spend it and enjoy it, not pass it on to everybody else, but enjoy it.
And I heard, I was reading something the other day, Dr. Mays, that it diminishes your brain capacity. It's already hard to remember names. I ain't doing nothing that's going to make it even faster for me to lose my memory, to diminish my brain capacity. So that by itself, lose my mind. That by itself is all it needs. So I am still masked up and I will remain that way.
Thank you.
So I hope you guys do the same thing. Thank you, Dr. Mays, for your update. We so appreciate you. Thank you, Arnetta, for coming over and visiting. Please go tell a bunch of all your friends to come on over here.
I will. Glad to be here.
We are happy to have you. And we had a couple of pictures. Petra is a brand new Omni. Thank you guys for coming out. We are so pleased to have you. Next week, Stephen, would you like to tell us who?
Yeah, who's coming up next? And pass the plate.
Yes, next week we have Queen of Next Consulting. She's going to talk about the importance of your back office operation, compliance, HR. And that's next week. And also, there was in the chat box, you donate to the community briefing. We've been on the air for 2 years, and this is an exercise of love. We want to keep doing this with your kind contribution. No amount is too small, but the more you give, the bigger the smile.
Good job, Stephen. Good job.
I reposted
Thank
it again,
you guys.
so that it's fresh.
Judge Brown Jackson has been confirmed 53-47. So yay. Big time. So now we're going to wait and see who he does next. Christopher, thank you so much. We so appreciate all of the information that you provided. Inglewood is growing and prospering, and I hope we can all support recycling those Black dollars in the city of Inglewood so that we can keep the streets paved.
And they're paving some streets now. They're paving some streets. Yeah.
I'm just saying, you can ride down our street. Stay off of Centinela for right now, but in a few months, come back. Right. Come back in a few months.
All righty. Well, we will keep supporting you. Please come back whenever there's anything that you want to share with us. You are welcome to always. This is the community briefing, and this is where we keep our Black community and our brown community informed of what's happening. We usually the last one at the table to know what's going on in our own community. So that's why this platform exists, so that we can be in the know to make in time and on time decisions. There was a question in there about Inglewood and the Olympics, because I know that's the next biggest thing coming about. So we may bring you back to talk about that as well.
This thing is NCAA football championship is next year.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And
that's okay, all right.
And the World Cup and the Super Bowl will be back here before the Olympics.
That's right.
And my nephew is an alpha. I'm gonna send him to you guys because he needs to be elevated. So he wants to buy. So I'm gonna send him to you, Christopher, and you can take care of him. He's a diehard Laker Kobe fan. So y'all already got something in common.
Let's go Knicks.
Thank you guys. Have a great weekend. Be safe, as Dr. Mays. No cute mask or cute mask with serious mask on top or under. Yes, gotta have your 360. Don't leave home without your mask and your wallet. So that's one and the same. So we will see you guys all next week. Tell a friend, come back and join us, and go over to the community briefing. Check out the archive of programming that's over. I think we have about 80 shows over there now. So go over to our community briefing to see who's been here before. Christopher, you will be up there. You're also going to be on YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn. So we keep it moving out there. So bye-bye, guys. Have a great weekend. Be safe. Thank you. Cheer on for Judge Brown Jackson. Bye-bye.
Yes.
And the beautiful city of Inglewood.
In the beautiful city of Inglewood.